Welcome to Nicki's Crochet Podcast, where you get to know your crochet designers from a totally different perspective. And maybe we'll get a smile out of you and you will learn something you may have never learned before, and then you want more. Today, I'm going to have a guest for you here. Again, I'm really excited. My name is Nicki. I'm your host from Nicki's Homemade Crafts, and my guest is Jessica from Stitching Together. And remember, before we get started, to hit that subscribe button and the bell to get a notification next time I publish a new video or a podcast. But also remember to check out the link in the description, because you get to know more about Jessica and also follow her and maybe even sign up for her email. That would be awesome. So let me introduce you to Jessica in case you haven't seen her before. Hi, Jessica from Stitching Together.
Hi,
I'm so
Nicki.
excited you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. We've been in contact for so long, and some of you probably, some of my followers for sure know you because you've been part of my bundles for a while, and I absolutely adore your patterns. And of
Thank
course, you
you.
too. And I'm really excited to chat with you because there are a few things I have this feeling not everyone knows, and I'm really
Okay.
excited about that. But let's start talking first about your name, Stitching Together. Now, I kind of assume where it's coming from, but do you have a funny backstory? How did that even come about? How did you come to that name?
Oh, there's not a super funny backstory. I do have a notebook with a list of names that I was going through and bouncing them off of one of my friends. And I came to that one and I really loved the idea because obviously it fits with crocheting. At that time, I thought maybe I'll do knitting patterns as well. It fits, with both of those. And then just the idea of building this community where we can all learn and grow together around this beautiful craft. So I love that the name encompasses that entire idea.
Oh, I love that. It just reminds me of a little bit of my story because, well, not exactly, but I started the same way. I wanted multiple crafts. I wasn't sure what I'm
Mhm.
doing, right?
Yep.
But that's why my name has craft in it, because I actually thought about it
Yeah.
doing multiple things. It ended
Yep.
up being just crocheting though for me. So I love that.
Sometimes crocheting's enough, isn't it?
Yes, it's funny is that I feel like everyone starts that way. Like, let's just dump it all in and see which one sticks, right? And then we'll go with
Yeah.
that one.
Yep.
I love that. Now, I do know that you have 3 little ones, I believe, if my number is correct, and
You
a
are right.
husband. So,
Yep.
do you have even some free time to crochet? Tell me. I mean, if you have 3 little ones,
Oh my
that keeps
word.
you busy, right?
It keeps me so busy. And actually, this is their first year going to school. They've been homeschooled up until now.
Wow.
So I have a little bit more time, but the great part about crocheting is you can take it with you.
Yes.
So we've spent many days at the park or outside, and I've got my whip bag with while they're running around like crazies. And that was another when I get annoyed at them, my husband will remind me, Stitching Together, to tie it back to my name. Like, you've got it with the kids too. And I'm like, okay.
I feel you because my husband was similar. When I really started crocheting a lot, I was very calm. It brought this calming effect,
Yes.
just not for me, but for everyone around, because I'm such a bee, a buzzing bee. Like, I want this and this,
Yeah.
and then it's like, just crochet, just calm down, just crochet.
Just chill and crochet.
I
Yes.
feel you.
Yeah.
But speaking of carrying yarn around, a follower of yours possibly, in case nobody knows, you guys can submit questions beforehand, and I have gotten a question that I actually don't know, and unless I'm
Okay.
wrong, she mentioned that you have a lot of cotton projects. Is that happen, or does it happen to be your favorite yarn, and why do you use a lot of cotton?
Interesting. I never even would have connected. Oh, I have a lot of cotton projects. I do when I find a good cotton. I love working with cotton. Um, Part of the reason I have a lot of cotton projects is because I know people are looking for them and I want to give people what they're looking for. So I do a lot of dish towels and washcloths and dishcloths because they're really popular and everybody goes through those patterns quickly. So
That's true. And they
yeah,
make the
but I do.
perfect gift. They make
They
the perfect gift. You
do.
can make an easy gift basket for someone, like really
Yeah.
quickly with that. And sometimes, and probably some people know that, maybe assume, we use our little swatches and turn them into washcloth. So,
Yes.
it works perfectly. So if we test
Yep.
out a stitch, you can use it as a swatch and then you can turn it into washcloth.
That's very true. Mine end up as coasters a lot. I
Oh,
love
yes.
having coasters around, on my desk. On my desk right
I,
now, I
I
have
love
one of my
that.
heart coasters.
Great.
So And you need cotton for a good coaster. So.
That's true. Wonderful. I love it. Now, I'm going to turn it around and see, do you have something you've never made but kind of always wanted to? Like there's like something on your bucket list almost.
So I've started a couple Ami projects that I've never completed. Um, and eventually, like I started a doll for my daughter, and I was following someone else's pattern, which was great. I just kind of got intimidated because it's different than a rectangle.
That's true,
Um,
100%. There are things you have to
Ami,
think about too when you do amigurumi. It's like you make sure you have to tight stitch, and if you have a loose tension like me, you're going to go quite down in hook size just to make sure there's no giant holes. Because I've done
yes,
amigurumi before, and then once you push the polyfill, it's like, why is such a big gap? I see the polyfill, so I
yep,
feel you.
yes. So that I would like to do more.
Mhm.
um, and actually like complete something. I also have a design for a little, well, that's around here somewhere too. I gotta stop looking for my things. If you
Don't
guys saw
look
the
at
rest
your
of my
pile of
office.
shame. Don't look at
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Speaking of pile of shame, how many do you have?
Oh gosh. I just found another box in my closet upstairs the other day too, and I was like, oh, I forgot all about those projects.
I
It's so
have done the same
bad.
thing. I went in my attic and I was like, what is this extra bag? Like, what did I do here? And I've noticed it's all my old whips. I'm just like, oops. I guess
Yes.
I can finish some of
I
them.
Right, and, I have circled back to a few of them, but, like,
Mhm.
I had started, a list. I've tried to, like, list out what I'm working on because if I don't see it, it's gone. It's like it never existed. So,
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, there are a few of them because I've spent so much time on them. They keep swirling up in my head. It's almost
yes.
like similar to a nightmare. You keep dreaming about them.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you're there. I don't want to deal with you right now. I'm not
Yeah.
ready yet. So I know what you mean. I'm going to turn it slightly more here and ask you, do you have
Mhm.
like a pet peeve? And like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. Like when it comes to crocheting.
Wow, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think, if I get a skein of yarn that has a ton of knots in it,
Oh,
I think
yes.
that's one of the only thing that, like, I get really frustrated at, and it has to be a lot because I totally understand that
Oh,
manufacturers need to do what they need to do, like, I get that, but I've had a couple where in the middle of a
yeah.
project and they were just like, I mean, I sent a picture to the manufacturer, I'm like, like, "This is a little bit beyond
Oh, yes, I get it. My
acceptable."
my worst one is when there's a color change and it happens at the wrong time. And then there's that knot.
Oh,
When you have
yeah,
the variegated yarn and I'm like, this is
yes,
supposed to be longer. This is going to make the whole project look off because that one color is too short. That's the
yeah,
worst one for me. I'm like,
that's
now
a
I have to find a
terrible
new
one.
skein just to make this
Yep,
happen?
right.
So I get that. If you didn't crochet, what would you do? I'm aiming for a specific thing here, and I'm going to come around later. If you wouldn't crochet as a job, what would you do instead?
Oh, as a job. Well, my background is in science, like someone else
Oh.
I know, Nikki. When I started stitching together, I was actually working as a quality assurance manager in a medical
Mhm.
device company. So I would probably head back to that world. But actually, I am also heading in the music industry world as
Yes.
well, which nothing's happening with stitching together. It's staying here, but my best friend and I have been doing a lot of music
I
together and writing, songwriting. So,
I love that. That's actually what I was aiming for. I totally had
yeah,
forgotten that you were in science too. In case nobody knows, I'm also from a science background.
yeah.
So, but I love that because my kids are also into music. So that's why I was like, oh, I've been following with Jessie for a while. If you ever want to see how good she is when it comes to the music, just follow her personal profile on Facebook.
Oh,
She has a
geez.
bunch there. But yeah,
Thank
she's
you,
really
Nikki.
good, and I love that. Do you do a lot of that in your on your site, or do you sing while you crochet? Oh my gosh, that would be fun.
Oh, do I? I do. I crochet a lot during like song writes with people because I'm
Hmm.
horrible at sitting still.
Hmm.
And it really, really helps me focus. And so we have my best friend and I have this great songwriting community we're part of, and they just kind of know like I'll be in the background crocheting as as we're working on stuff. And
Yeah.
people have I've had to let people know like I'm not zoned out. I'm
Hmm.
just like this helps me focus and come up with ideas and things. So they kind of blend together, which works out well.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so true. It's really important to kind of something to calm you. But I feel you because sometimes, I get really, I have this hyper focused. I'm like completely done in the zone, once you're in it, you want to
Mhm.
stay in it. So I feel
Mhm.
you. Do you have a crochet moment that you like to look back to and it just always makes you smile? Like it doesn't matter what it is. It just always makes you smile when you think about it.
I would say not so much a moment, but just general memories. My mom was the first one to teach me how to crochet,
Hmm.
and we had a very teasing, fun relationship, and so, she would crochet doilies, and I would just tease her mercilessly about, her old lady craft, even though I was learning to crochet too and loving it, but I'm like, "Oh, mom, you and your doilies," and she wasn't really a doily person, so it was just kinda funny that
Oh, I
that's
love
what
that.
she loved to crochet, so it just makes me happy to think about that. My mom passed away in 2018, and I have her hooks and,
Oh, yeah,
um,
that's recent. I'm sorry.
some of her projects, so
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. My grandma's the one who taught me how to knit, actually, and
Oh,
then I got into crocheting much later. But she didn't know how to crochet,
yeah.
but she never taught me that part of it. Nobody remembers when I started knitting, though. I just remember being a young teen. Nobody remembers
Mhm.
when it was. I remember
Yep.
exactly the moment. I remember where I was sitting. I remember what I was doing. I even remember her watching TV and where she was sitting. I just don't remember how old I was.
Yes,
So.
that's how it's like with me crocheting. I'm like, it was somewhere in high school, I think, but I don't remember exactly when.
Do
Let me
you have a
think.
pattern you wanted to design a specific way but ended up completely different?
Oh gosh, I have so many of those that,
Pick one out. Let's
I
hear
know,
it.
I'm trying to think because 'cause I'll pick from one of my earlier projects, which
Mhm.
was the Christie Cardi, and, it's got these really cool black panels, and I don't usually design clothing,
Yes.
but I did for that one. It's got these great black panels in there that actually look like an amazing design feature. Well, it was just
Mhm.
because I ran out of yarn, and I was like, "Shoot, I can't find the right color." We're
That's
just gonna
hilarious.
add in a new color, and it turned out great, and I love it, but that was not part of the original plan at
Oh my
all,
god,
and
I love that. That is awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the same issue that people run into when it's a lot difference, right? When you
Yeah,
pick up a
yep.
new yarn and it's the same yarn, but then the lot is different. And sometimes it works out. Most of the time it works out, but sometimes it doesn't. And we look at them, it's like, the color does not match. It's supposed to be the
Yes.
same color. That does not seem right. So in that case, pick a totally different color, and make a design out of that one. I love it.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
perfect.
There are a lot of my projects where I'm just not great at planning ahead of time, to be honest, and so they'll be like, "Oh, there's a color change. Yep, that was not intentional, but it worked out great."
Totally. Do you have like a pattern that you regret putting out there for some reason or
Oh.
another? Like there's one for me. I'm like, I regret putting out there, but I guess I'm just gonna leave it. But is there something for you where I'm like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that one?
I had little stars, which are still really popular. I love the
Hmm.
star pattern, but I had also made, like, how to upcycle your Christmas lights,
Hmm.
and I did them in, like, variegated 4th of July color yarn, I think, with the stars hanging off it,
Yeah.
which the idea was really cute, but I just, like it was so early in photographing and putting things
Yeah.
together that I go back and look at that, I'm like, "What was I even doing?" And then I had read, like, people be like, "You can't wrap lights in yarn, they'll start on fire," and I'm like, "I don't want anyone to start on fire."
I saw this coming. I knew you would say that because this is like the typical comment section, right? Filled with
Oh,
complaints. Don't do this. Don't do this. It happens
yes,
with babies too, right? Why did you use this yarn?
yes,
Why not this yarn? I
yes,
feel you.
yeah. And that stuff gets it can get kinda stressful because
Yes.
you don't wanna be liable for anybody getting hurt. I mean, you don't want anybody to get hurt, period.
Period.
So,
Exactly. That's the same thing with me when I made my cotton bowl cozy and
I
I had
remember
it written
that.
down. You can do that in the microwave because I've done that. I'm like, I didn't think twice because, I've even
Right.
made it, use cotton fabric and made sewed version out of them. Put it in the
Yeah,
microwave was
yeah.
fine, but of course didn't think about it until another designer pointed out to me. It's like, you don't write that. You can't write that because you have no guarantee that the yarn company is okay with that. I'm like, good point.
Yeah, and you have no guarantee that someone won't be like, "Oh, I can just use acrylic for this," and
I
that
know.
they won't think through, because I would probably do something like that and not think it through, like, oh, this is not supposed to get hot.
That's true. And I've seen that conversation with coasters because you just brought up recently
Mhm.
coasters. I've seen that
Yep.
conversation going back and forth. Do I have to use cotton? Why does
Right.
some people use acrylic? It was like, well, it
Mhm.
depends on, are you just using it as a coaster? How hot is your bowl or your coffee mug or tea mug? I mean, if it's that
Right.
hot, you probably shouldn't even touch it.
Yeah, we have other issues. We do have other issues then if it's that hot.
Yes. That
Yes.
is so true. That is so true. Are you a snacker? Someone's asking if you are snacking while you crochet. And if you do, what are you snacking on?
Oh my word. Well, dark chocolate is always my go-to, which is a terrible combination with yarn.
That's true, especially when it melts in your hand.
Yeah.
Use like a
Yeah.
like a stick or something.
Oh my word. I try hard not to, like, I'll set my whip aside,
Hmm.
have popcorn, because a lot of times I have popcorn in the evenings when I'm
Yes.
crocheting, and I try hard to set things down, eat, and then go back to it,
Yes.
but
Oh,
it doesn't always happen.
I feel you.
That's so funny because I do remember in the early days too, I had posted, I think it was on Instagram or maybe on Facebook, I had posted some white yarn that I was working with, and there was brown on it, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Lesson learned, don't eat chocolate while you're crocheting," and, like, people came after me in the comments like, "I never eat when I crochet," and I was like, "Oh gosh, I didn't know this was gonna be a thing." It's like,
Oh my
okay.
gosh. It
It
gets
wasn't even it wasn't even me. There was
yeah.
like, I found brown further in, like, so I was like, "Oh, I didn't even actually get chocolate on the yarn in the first place," but
Oh my gosh. It's the same story with, don't smoke while you crochet or don't have
yeah.
cats or dogs around or your kids around. There's always conversations about that, right? But, there is someone who actually asked and said, what is kind of your daily thing? Like I'm going to combine your two questions in one. Considering you're a crochet designer like me, do you really get to crochet a lot? Because I don't. Most of the time I'm on a computer, sadly. And
Yeah.
what is kind of your daily routine? Is every day the
Mhm.
same, or do you have a day where you just crochet?
I never have a day where I just crochet, and crocheting always gets stuck in the cracks.
Yeah,
When I have, like, work hours, I almost never crochet during those hours,
yeah.
and that was the thing even when I started stitching together and I was kind of tracking my hours at the beginning just to kinda
Hmm.
get an idea of what am I putting into this.
Yes.
My husband would be like, "Why aren't you counting your crocheting hours? You have a lot more." I'm like, "No, crocheting's still my hobby
Yeah.
and my relaxer. It's the behind the scene work that's the work for me, that
Yeah.
feels like work."
Very true.
Um, and it's not bad work, it's not that I dislike it, but crocheting is the, like, the benefit, the good part.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, crocheting fills in the cracks. So when I'm, in pickup line for my kids, I'll usually have a project with
That
me, or when they're in
same.
Taekwondo class, I've got a project with me, and
Yeah.
when we watch TV in the evenings, those kind of things. So normally my day working hours are spent on the computer.
Yes, I feel you. I totally feel you. But I kind of want to bring up your kids for a second one more time because
Mhm.
we all have funny stories when it comes to kids. Have your kids ever done something weird with your yarn or your
Oh
crochet
gosh.
project, unraveled, thrown something? Did it roll off? Did it go into the sand on a play box or something like that?
Yeah, I remember, I think I have a picture of it too. When my youngest was really little, he was 1 or 2, and we were sitting on a couch. It was actually right here in this room when it was part of their playroom, and I looked over and he had my whole skein of yarn just like, and I was like, "Oh!"
No.
But he also looked so cute with it everywhere, and I was like, "I can't stay mad at you, you're too cute," but
Same with my cats. And my one cat, she's a gray
Mhm.
white cat, but she loves my
Yep.
gray yarn. So she will carry my yarn around like it's a little baby or something, puts it on my bed
Oh,
or somewhere like it's like a present or something. Like, here's my
yep,
baby, and she carries it. But sometimes you have the yarn going through multiple rooms, and I'm like, I can't be
yeah.
mad at you because you just look so cute.
Yes. Yeah, thank goodness they're cute. I know, so far, like, my dog, our dog's just about to turn 2, and she's, I think, only gotten a hold of my yarn once, um, and my cats are kinda too old to care, but
Yeah, one of mine is for sure too old to care.
yep,
100%.
I can, like, set my projects on her, and she's like, "Eh, I don't okay."
I have one girl cat. She's a little more wild than the older one that is
Yep.
quite heavy. But he also has, arthritis. He's a little bit bigger than normal. So I think 23 pounds. So it's quite a big cat.
Yeah,
But yeah, naturally they're that big. And so, yeah, he doesn't care. He's just, you can put him somewhere, he'll stay there.
I
Whereas the
love
other
that.
one will carry the yarn around the whole house.
Mhm.
But it's cute. It's adorable. Do you have any other cute stories that you've never talked about in public?
The last couple of days, my daughter, my 7-year-old, has wanted to learn to crochet, and she is still in that, like, body spastic stage of life, so I'm like, "I don't know how this is gonna go," and I taught my oldest by just teaching him how to chain and being like, "You're gonna chain for a while until you get your tension right
Yes.
and can hold it and everything and be so comfortable with that," because it's especially for kids, can be really
Yes.
frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
So he is an awesome chainer now, which is amazing. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start the same thing with her. And this was, I think it was 2 nights ago we did this, and she picked it up so quickly. I was shocked. And
Mm-hmm.
she's a lefty.
Wow.
And so I knew there was extra challenge there of
Well, she
teaching
can
her because
actually crochet in front of you then, so that's kind of nice.
yes, yeah, so we did that, and then I was sitting next to her, and I'm like, "You know what? I bet I can figure this out with my left hand, and it's gonna be as hard for me as it is for her." So I figured out how to switch and do it with my left hand so she could kind of see that from both
Yes.
angles. Um, that was just so much fun. It was fun to, like, to try to relearn
Mm-hmm.
in a way, how to crochet, it's a little bit easier, obviously, because I have so
Yes.
much experience, but it's weird to mirror things, and it helped me
Yes.
just remember that learning process and how
Mm-hmm.
challenging it can be, how much patience you need at first, but then how it's so worth it.
Oh, totally. It just reminds me of my time when I was younger and my brother, the only lefty in my family, I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't even know where you got that gene from. It's very interesting. So you said you have three kids though, right? So
Mhm.
two of them are learning how to crochet. What about the third one? Is
Yep.
it too young?
He's 5, and
Okay.
yeah, he was asking me the other day, "Can you teach me?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know if you're ready yet."
Well, maybe you can do it by hand crocheting, right? Hand crocheting,
Mhm.
hand knitting.
That's true.
Right? Like, my husband, I love that idea of, oh, you can just knit and crochet with your hands. You don't need a hook, right? That way they can get the
Yeah.
idea of the motion and where the loops go. Knitting is probably much easier in that case, the hand knitting part of it.
Yep. Yep.
And then there are also these yarns with the loops on it. And my mom
Yeah.
loves that because she can't hold a crochet hook anymore. She really wants to learn, but
Mhm.
she can't because of her hands.
Yeah.
But she loves the idea of putting loops through loops.
Yep.
So that might be fun for your kids too. I
That's a
just love that
great
idea.
idea.
Yeah, and there's so many. Joann's has like a whole bunch of them now. So I was like,
Yeah, they have
whoa.
so many different options.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
and it's fun. It's great to, get my kids involved, and it's because I love crocheting so much, sometimes that happens where your kids are just kinda like,
Yes.
"We're
Yeah.
over that," and so I've never wanted to push it on them, but
Yes.
now that they're asking, I'm like, It's my time."
Yes, I know. I would feel so happy. I have two boys. They're too old for this now, but they do look at it and it's like, oh, that's interesting, right? And then I show certain things off. It's like, oh, that's cool, right? Because I have
Yeah,
unique designs that are kind of different. Sometimes they're hit and miss with the audience, right? But I try to have them unique, something that's usually
yeah.
not done before. But I do love your elegance in the patterns. They're just like I look at them and I'm just like, oh, there's just so pretty pictures. I always look at other designers like I wish I had pictures like this. I was looking at
Oh,
other people. I was like,
thank
oh, that's so
you.
pretty. And you have really, really gorgeous designs. I absolutely love them. Speaking of designs, I'm sure you want to show one off. Tell us about that pattern you were thinking about showing off.
Yeah, well, I honestly, I couldn't find the one, no surprise there. I couldn't find the exact one that I wanted to, but, the towel toppers, so we all know towel toppers have
Hmm.
been around for forever, and
Right.
last year I had seen a sewn version of a towel topper with an idea that I had never seen before, and I was like, "I think
Ooh.
I can do this in crochet, and I think people are gonna love the idea." So it's a topper that just gets sewn onto the corner
Oh, I love that.
of a normal dish towel. So
Yes.
this is the heart version that I made for Valentine's this year. So it's super easy. What I love about this project is if you need something quick for
Yes.
a gift or anything like that, this is it. Something that's not high commitment, but you still
I
want to
love
give
that.
them that homemade touch.
Hmm.
This is wonderful. And the little bead.
I love that. See, that
You don't
extra
have to
little
use that, but
touch makes it like elegant. Like, and then you have these beautiful pictures with it. I just love that idea. That's awesome. It's beautiful. That's
thank
really, really
you.
sweet. If anyone wants the pattern, it's going to be down in the description, so you can grab it. And I hope that you're also going to sign up for Jessica's emails because they're incredible. And she's very often actually part of my bundles, which makes me very honored. It's stunning patterns, and the bundles are great. And she's very often part of it. And I'm really, really honored when she says yes. I always make a little dance. It's like, Jessica's part of it.
Thank you, Nicki. You're so cute.
Because there's so many designers that have specific styles, and I just always love them. And when they're part of these bundles, it just makes the whole bundle so much better. And when you're part of it, it just makes the entire thing come together. And I just love that. But if anyone wants to follow Jessica, please follow her. She has, I think, almost all social media platforms. And I will have a summary about this podcast down below as a blog post, so you can see all that. And I'll link back to Jessica, so you get to know her more and more of her designs. I am so grateful you were here. Thank you so much for being part of my new podcast, and I hope you had a fun time. And if anyone has any questions, leave them down below. I'm sure Jessica would love to see them, and also love to see you show up on her side of the crochet world. Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks, Nicki. It was great.
Okay, bye everyone.